Hello, Aries, and welcome to Indigo Rising Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you're having a great day. This will be your weekly reading for the week of May 24th through the 30th. And during that time, we have a first quarter moon, and that comes in on the 24th. And that could be a time when you might feel impulsive, impatient. Maybe your mind's a little active. You might get a little frustrated, and it's just kind of hard to buckle down and get anything done. So either see that as a gift, as a way to dominate your impulses, or as a way to take a day and just relax a little bit. So we then move into the waxing gibbous energy for the rest of the week. And that is a time for a deeper understanding and outlook. We're going to be acting on our intuitions and our introspections, but it is a good time for planning, preparation, and execution of those things that we've started during the news cycle, but also a time for us to show flexibility. So if things aren't working out in one way or another, just to make those little adjustments. So please keep those moon energies in mind as we move through the week. This will be an intuitive general reading for energies that you may or may not encounter, Aries. So, as always, please take what resonates today and leave what doesn't on the table for someone else. And your overall message for this reading is that nothing will come of this situation. All right, let's see what the Aries Collective might have going on for the week. As I'm shuffling, my fun weekly reminder this week is that you keep a spiritual journal. Sometimes we don't recognize the patterns that are evolving in our life as we're growing and learning spiritually, and it's really just good to have a little memory of those tucked away in a journal somewhere, that's so that you can go and just kind of go back in time a little and check, where was I there when that thing happened, and when did I start doing this practice, and when did when did I learn about this spiritual gift that I'm now putting to use. So it's just fun to go back in time and see also if there's things that you thought you might have wanted to do and maybe you didn't. It's a little reminder for that, and it's just a really good way to have a look back on those things that you're learning. It's a good tool to have. So please keep that in mind and try to keep a spiritual journal. And that's my fun weekly reminder for you. All right, let's get into this reading. Aries, enough babbling. May 24th through the 30th, nothing will come of this situation. And your overall present energy right now is a Five of Swords. So some sort of conflict coming in for you this week. And it could just be, an exchange of words, something that needed to be said. I always say that, this guy holding the swords, he's holding a few back. He looks like he threw a couple out, and there's some hurt feelings and people in the background here that aren't thrilled that these words had to come out. Sometimes it's things that need to be said. Sometimes you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But whatever the case may be, are you in the situation where those daggers came from you, or are you back here where some of those daggers came at you? So kind of hard to tell. We'll see what your reading says as it comes out here. Your current situation is the Queen of Swords. So that would be the indicator to me that you are the throwee of the daggers, which, the Queen of Swords is very succinct. She says what she means. She doesn't mince her words. And so that's fine. But it looks like some words came out and maybe there's some hurt feelings surrounding it. So, we'll see as your reading goes on how you need to manage it. But again, your overall was nothing will come of this situation. It might just be a one-time thing that happened. Words were said, words were exchanged. Maybe you got your point across, and maybe that'll be the end of the issue, hopefully. At the root of your situation is the Knight of Wands. So something, in the passion realm, it could be that, are you arguing over a love interest for some of you? Are you arguing over, some artistic thing that you work on that you've got, some skin in the game passion wise there? Is it something at work? It looks like it's something you do feel very passionately about. So it's not something that's just flippant. But that's at the root of it, is a little bit of passion and fire. It's something that you feel strongly about. And of course, you spoke up and spoke your mind. In your recent past, here is the Emperor. So this could be about something that you've built. Again, it could be a relationship that you've built, and it could be a creative project, a work project. It's almost like something that you've built. Something was going on there. You're very passionate about it because you do have skin in the game when it comes to this, and you had to speak your mind. Somebody is either in there doing things you'd rather they didn't, or messing with a project that you've had some kind of say in, something that you've built. And, of course, when that happens, when people interfere or mess around where they shouldn't, words typically are exchanged. Don't blame you there. What's on your mind this week? is the sun. So what's going to make you happy? Or maybe it just did make you happy to get this off your chest and say it. And that is the case sometimes. Sometimes things kind of bubble up and linger. Aries, your sign, you tend to be a little bit insecure sometimes, and maybe you didn't speak up soon enough. And this could be one of those things that if you're encountering this over and over, it could just be a sign for you to learn how to speak up earlier before something very small becomes a big problem. Some of you will understand that. Some of you will be like, well, I do that all the time. So I think that it's something we all do, but it might be specific to the Aries trait because of sometimes you guys are a little more insecure than you should be. You're very competitive, but you're trying to just kind of match with people around you when it comes to that competition. And that's kind of why you guys like to have that edge. So again, if it's something you built, and maybe it's just learn to say things earlier before it festers. What is just ahead of you this week is the King of Pentacles. So you are showing that you have this control over, look at the royalty showing up here. Now, King of Pentacles is really about the material, the money, and it's showing that you literally have command over those things, super super knowledge, and that's kind of where this takes us to, in the what's coming for you this week, what's in your future. And I think, is that proving that through something you've said, something you've done, again, some words that were exchanged because you're like, hey, I built this, I understand it, I've got the knowledge about this material thing, this money thing, whatever that could be for you, and I'm standing my ground, so I don't see you backing down. And I think it made you happy, with that sun card, to say the thing that was on your chest. In your advice position here is, yeah, it looks like you're going to get some recognition from people around you. There's people around you that saw what was going on and maybe were like, hey, when are you going to speak up? Because, and maybe even silently, they might not have said that out loud, but maybe that was the feeling, that was the consensus. And again, if this is like a work situation, it's like your coworkers are like, they see what's going on from this other person, and this other person interfering or stepping where they shouldn't be, and they're thinking, when are you going to speak up? What, and just thinking it. And then when you do, and you finally just lay the law down, put the word out there, you got this Queen of Swords who just says what's on her mind, says the thing that needs to be said. You've got people around you who are like, hey, saw that, totally understand, good thing you did it, a little pat on the back. So that's from some observers and some people around you there. What is beyond your control this week is a lot of choices here with the Seven of Cups. So, this may lead to, whatever's going on, that there could be somebody that was making some decisions, and it means that you are now open again to make certain decisions, certain choices. So make sure you're choosing wisely. And that's really all I can say about that one. Let's see, that's not a repeater, just checking there. Okay, what is your secret desire, or what are you trying to avoid, is the Devil card. So I hope you're trying to avoid that. And that is that insecurity that I was talking about. The devil brings up things that are just false insecurities, things that aren't really real, fears that are false. Lack of confidence, things that kind of creep in. It could be fear of success, even. But if that's what we're trying to avoid, hopefully we can avoid those sins and just take control of the reins, say the thing that needs to be said. It doesn't have to be in a mean way. It doesn't have to be, super confrontational. It's just almost like you've had to, tell someone, hey, here's the decision I've made, and I'm going that way, and thanks for your input, but I'm going with this decision. Thanks. Bye. Just very succinct. Sometimes you don't really owe people a big description or a big what's the word, explanation, I guess, for decisions that you're making, especially if it's something that you're in control of. This is your baby. You get to make the decisions on how to do it, right? So hopefully you're trying to avoid this, but this will be a big question. Are you going to give in to that devil this week and be insecure and not speak up and say the thing? Or are you going to take that devil by the horns and say, not today, Satan, and go ahead and say the thing that you need to do? So that'll be your big question of the day, is will you or won't you? I have a feeling you will, especially now that you're at the tarot reading and I've given you a little heads up on this whole situation. And your outcome position is the Star card. So definitely this is you following the direction of things, things that are written in the stars. The Star card is about being on course. It's about, hoping and trusting, and really kind of following, being drawn to the signs of the universe and then acting accordingly. So if there was something that got your attention and you had to speak up about it, you're just acting in the way the universe wants you to. It's about having clarity. And again, it's about saying, the thing, the whole thing is about saying the thing that's on your mind, because you have a bigger picture of a direction that you're trying to go into. This one little project that you're working on might be the one piece in a much bigger picture of your professional life or your creative life or your romantic life, right? It's one little piece of a big giant puzzle. So you know what the big outcome, you know where the stars are leading you, you know what is written in the stars to know what your direction in life is. And I think you need to speak up. So what's hidden from you this week, Aries, is the Justice cards. So this is about truth. And maybe that's why, and maybe you do uncover a little bit of this truth because something has been brought to light, and maybe through the situation, through maybe this confrontation, some other truth gets brought to light, and it's, this is hidden from you. And maybe again, the bringing out of this situation might bring some of that up to the surface. I wouldn't be surprised if next week your reading was about truth and about trying to, just sometimes after you have a little tussle, I'm not even saying a tussle, just an exchange of words, sometimes that lingers with us for a little bit of time, because you're trying to work it out in your head, you're thinking about it. You might have other people that you can talk to about it to try to work it out. But and in that, sometimes some truth gets uncovered just because you're thinking about it or talking about it to other people. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that in your reading next week, where you're like, oh, I figured out the truth and here's what was going on. So all right, let's get you a final message from the Soul Oracle deck. And remember that your overall was nothing will come of this situation. I mean, I think by nothing, it means that it is what it is. You say the word, the thing gets fixed, and we move along life. Now, I don't mean nothing in the way that you are going to learn something about yourself, which we always do anytime we're put up against some situation like this. So, and if learning that you can say the thing, without being mean or super confrontational, but that you can, that you live up to, like, you bypass your insecurities and you're able to just say the thing. And I know I'm like that too, even in my sign. I'm not very confrontational, and sometimes I say things and I even surprise myself that I can't believe I said that. Most times though, I'm like, why didn't I say blah 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 the other things? So you may be in the former, I can't believe I said that, and I stood up to that person and it just felt so good and it was the right thing to do. So all right, final message here for Aries. Final message for Aries. Oh, you get two here that want to come out. So we will take both of them. Love your spirit and begin to explore. Love your spirit and then begin to explore, maybe even being this new way, maybe being a little more, and I don't mean confrontational, I mean just calling things when they need to be said. That's learning how to overcome your insecurity that you were born with. And depending on your age, that's one of your jobs. If that's a listing, if that's something that's in your, like, your birth sign description, at a certain age you start to overcome. That's something that you need to work to overcome. So some of you may still be working on that. Some of you may have done it. This may be the thing that has crossed you over to the line where you're like, I don't have no need to be insecure. So okay, let's get you a self-care wisdom card. Self-care for Aries for this week. And the card that you get is surprise. Release your expectations and be open to surprise. So, I'm going to say speak up, do the thing. Don't expect what's going to happen before and after. And maybe this person, maybe depending on what you think might happen, the opposite thing happens. You may think this person's going to stomp off in a fiery fit, and they don't. They come to you and they're like, you know what, you're exactly right, I apologize, let's move on, shake hands, da da da. So don't have expectations. Be open to the surprise, and that comes from people as well. People can surprise us. So Aries, thank you so much for being here. I hope there was something in this reading that you can take away and use in a positive way in your life this week. Of course, if you're comfortable sharing, drop me a comment down below and let me know what was going on with you this week. Did you have a situation like this? Or if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well. Also, if you like my reading style, hitting like and subscribe really helps my channel. So thank you so much if you've already done that. If you're about to do that, again, thank you as well. So thanks so much for being here. Good luck with all of this, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.